You're so busy all week and I haven't even got to...
It's a matter of priority.
Yeah, it is.
Derek.
Oh, you're talking now, are you?
Yes.
Oh, I see, we're
It's
on.
okay. Derek, can you introduce... I have 1 million followers, so can you introduce who you are and your history here in Le Mans?
Okay, well, I hope my memory is good enough. But my name's Derek Bell, and I'm getting on in age, in years, but I've been very fortunate enough to have the most amazing career.
Yes.
I started off in single-seaters, I ended up at Ferrari and Formula One, and then I went sideways to sports cars, and I ended up driving for Gulf in the very early days with the famous Porsche 917. And then from that, I stayed with Gulf with the Mirage, and ultimately in '75 won the World Championship really, and the Le Mans 24 Hour for the first time. And so that was my real beginnings in sports cars. And over the years worked with Gulf for 5 years, and then went off and drove for other teams because Gulf pulled out and Porsche were taking a very low stance in those days. And then it came to the early 80s, and I ended up about to retire. And I got a request to come and do a special race for Porsche with Jackie Ickx, and it's the car in the picture back there.
Wow. How old were you then?
Oh, good question. I was 40.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I didn't start till I was 23. So because you know, in those days there was no way. It didn't start with karting. There was no karting, so it was just a matter of getting out there. And we had no money. We were simple farmers, and I mean not simple, but I mean we never had any extra cash to go buying race cars.
Yes.
And my dear old stepfather always said, you prove to me you've got the ability and I'll help you. So he did come in and help in the beginning, and then in 3 years I'm at Ferrari, or 3.5 years I was at Ferrari in Formula One. So I had quite a quick sort of rise, as it were, but it was just the way motor racing was then.
Yes.
And I ended up in sports cars, as I said, and then ended up with a big Porsche team all through the 80s.
Yeah.
And we won Le Mans 4 more times with Jackie Ickx. I won Le Mans 4 times for Porsche, once for Ford. And we won it twice, Jackie and I, and then I won with Hans Stuck and Al Holbert, and I won the Daytona 24 Hours with Al 3 times in America. So I had a lot of long distance successes, to be honest. And between us, we all won a lot of races. It was a wonderful era, both in America and obviously here in Europe. And that was it really, and I carried on until the mid-2000, 2009 was my last really professional race. But of course,
how old were you then?
Well, then I was I was 2009. What was I then? I was coming up. I was 62 or something.
Oh my
goodness. Maybe 62. But you know, the thing is, you never lose your talent if you have a talent. I'm not sure how much mine was, but I never lost it. And long distance race. I mean, my last big race was winning. I was driving at the Daytona 24 Hours in 2009, and I guess in reality that was the last time I was professional, in that I got paid and I drove a moderately competitive car with my son Justin. So it was pretty special. But unfortunately, we didn't finish the race. It had a break in the middle of the race, so I never actually drove that race. But that was really the end of it. You know, at a certain point, you can't keep doing it.
Yes.
And I love the racing. I still do. I still come here and I watch the guys, and I think, gosh, I'd love to get in and do a stint. And I know I could. Probably not now, you know, as quick as I was, but obviously you never lose the talent. I mean, you never lose the talent of being a driver. If you can drive, you can always drive. You just might drive with a little less dedication to overtaking in dangerous places.
If you were 40 now and racing today, let's talk about the car technology, because somewhat, no disrespect to the drivers here, you had to be a lot more skilled. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I don't think so. I mean, there's some very skilled drivers out there. Most of them have to be. I always look at it and I say, if you look at my era and you look at this era, the Lewis Hamiltons of this world and the Fernando Alonsos would have still been at the front in our era. It's just, if you're a good driver or a top driver, you're always a top driver, whatever era. It's just that the cars are different. I mean, it's rather like, the difference is rather like asking Roger Federer to play squash. He'd be very, very good. Whatever the racket was, he'd be good, but he might not be the best, but he would become the best. So, and I think with us, these guys learned to drive the way they learned. I mean, we had to shift gear, we had to use the clutch, we had one hand on the wheel while we did things because we were shifting. Nowadays they just flick and they have air-conditioned helmets and various other things, and certain electronic aids on the car that makes it easier to drive. However, they're driving around the corners much quicker because the cars are more more able to. So I guess physically you need, to be very fit. But we were always fit.
Alors attention. Une information de Toyota number 7.
How would he be feeling right now as a driver?
Well, he's not stopping. But he's obviously got a problem.
So what do you do?
Well, you just drive it as safely as you can, terrified that it's going to stop. And obviously this has all happened to me. But he's very slow, but he's still going around the corners. He's keeping out of the way. To let the actually he's not. He's right on the line through there. Maybe it's picked up again, or he might have a. Who knows what the problem? I can't even imagine what the problem is. At least they're whistling by him. But that's the way it is.
Voilà, alors que la
things go wrong. We've lost the race. 26 seconds from the end, so it does get close.
Et c'est toujours la Porsche sur le rapide because the Porsche is entre les deux voitures.
We've got about 2 hours to go. Yes. What are the challenges as a driver? What's going on?
Of course, it totally depends where they are in, what position they're in. And of course, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but there are 3 of them. So they haven't got to rely on just one other driver. So if I fell ill in the early days in my stuff, if I had a problem, I had to live with it because my teammate wasn't allowed to do more than 4 hours anyway. And physically at this time, there's no way he could do it because he's so tired. The heat in the car seems more intense than it was. It's 100 degrees in the car. And so it's very, very physical, and it becomes mental. But the most important thing is that you keep the car on the road and keep out of trouble. So, and can you maintain your position, or can you catch somebody in front? And you know all the information. They know exactly what's happening around. He's going really slowly. So they know exactly, how to get to the finish. The guy in that injured car there, obviously he's terrified, having led with the race for so long. He has a problem, but that's what racing's about. And everybody's been saying, oh, the Toyota is going to win. It should win, but it should have won before and didn't.
Yes.
And here they are, and it looks like they have won with a problem. The thing is, they have a 10-lap lead or something ridiculous. So 10 laps is 40 minutes. So they could almost go to the end, without even doing another lap. But you have to cross the finish line within a certain time of the previous lap, I believe, to sort of be announced a finisher. So who knows? I have no idea what they're going to do. We'll see in a minute when he gets back to the bits, but it is still running, so it looks like it can get back, but it might be jammed in one gear. Anyway, whatever it is, as a driver, which is what you asked me ages ago, it's very, very physical right now. It's very hot, but you're obviously in a very fine rhythm. You're just driving the car as beautifully as you possibly can, keeping out of trouble, not hitting curves, starting to really bring the car home.
Right. Have you ever raced against women?
Oh yes, but not knowing them. I mean, I knew they were there somewhere, but you don't know. Yeah, but you don't know who's in which car.
Right.
And more so in my era, I did know more because generally there were just 2 drivers, and you saw a particular coloured car. I mean, the cars these days are so similar in their looks that actually you think, which one am I looking at? In my day, for some reason, the colours were more distinct. So if I came behind a blue car or a black car, a red car or a yellow car, you got to know what it was. Now, I'm sure these guys know exactly when they see that black with the red tail, they know that it's a Toyota or something. But, it's not that easy now as I think it used to be because there's so many sponsors on the cars. And in fact, I think the cars aren't very nice looking anymore when you look at the stuff that we were in, but we didn't have as many sponsors in those days. Or racing wasn't expensive.
In the past, you'd stop for a cup of tea at Le Mans during the race. And would that be correct?
Would you? You would. Oh, not in my time. No, we didn't have such. No, they never. The stories go because one guy did try to do the whole 24-hour on his own. So he used to just stop and have a cup of tea and a pint of water and then carry on because he had to when they refueled him. So he probably didn't cost him much.
Formula. Can we talk a bit about Formula One?
Yes.
Are you happy? Hold on. It's numbers are in decline. You're only good as your followers, your supporters. What's its future?
I think they have a new governing body of Formula One, which I think is very capable of putting things right. I think particularly they have Ross Brawn, who really knows, you know, about motor racing, having been Ferrari manager in his own racing team, so he knows that we are in the entertainment business,
yes,
as we are with this, and that's what we have to bear at all times, is the entertainment side of it. And you know, we had Monaco the other week, and I mean, it was just fantastic. Whether you like it, well, nobody overtook. Well, they never did overtake much at Monaco. But it's still very, very difficult to say that Monaco isn't one of the greatest visual things. But if you go for car racing and you came from another sport, say, well, there was no overtaking. What was that about?
Yes.
But the atmosphere, the whole thing, the creation of the whole thing, you may say here, 24 hours, what do they need that for? Well, it's a test of endurance.
Yes.
Not only on the car, on the driver, on the mechanics, on everybody, and on the spectators. And it is so unique. There's such a horrible word, so unique, that we get away with it. You couldn't do this more than once a year in Europe, but it's become part of history, motor racing history and motor racing folklore. But Formula One, you know, they'll improve things. To me, my way of thinking is they have to somehow make it easier for the public to understand. They can't understand. What do you mean by a hybrid? What do you mean by, you know, has to back off the power to get the you know, the DRS, not DRS, to get the electronics sort of picking up power so they can use it when they need it. It's not quite right.
Yeah, they're not
you know,
educating.
the public don't want to know that. They want to look at a program and say, oh, that's Ferrari, that's whatever, and watch the race. They don't want to know about red tires and white tires, which are, some are softer than the others. You know, there has to be very strict control over it. But everybody, I think, should run the same tires. And I know people like the pit stops, but you still have pit stops. But you all have to run the same tires, whatever.
Yes,
and this sort of thing, oh, he came in and put his slicky tires on to get rid of the ones he never needed, but he had to come in anyway. So he comes in, changes, and then he can go through and win the race. And you go, I can sort of understand it, but and it ends up making the teams and the management of the race more important than the driving.
Yes.
Because the drivers can then they're driving something that's pretty undrivable, and then the next minute, you know, they change the car and they go out and it's wonderful.
Yes.
You know, anyway, that's just my feeling.
And one final question. Your favourite driver of all times. Let's go back and let's talk about also in 2018.
Well, I keep going back over my history. I think my idol really, I had two probably, both British. One was Jim Clark, and he was tragically killed in my first big professional race, but I'd been with him that night before and went to the track with him that day, but I'd watched him, and he was just, it was sort of a beautiful driver to watch, and he was such a great gentleman and just a great sportsman and a wonderful sort of, what do you call it, image for the younger people to look at, you know. And then today, I don't know who I really think I've got a tremendous amount of. I mean, I have to admit, Michael Schumacher was probably my hero for many years, only because just the way he went about things. Nowadays, I'm not sure.
Yes.
I just admire them all for what they do, and they love it, but they're lucky, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
Can I say the highlight of Le Mans is this interview. Thank you very much for the privilege.
My pleasure.
Bless
Thank you very much, Fadi. Okay, I better go to the other drivers.
Here.